afternoon, everybody, and welcome in to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. We are ready to get things underway. If you're watching this vertical screen and you're thinking, oh, why did they go to that instead of the horizontal screen? I'm working on that. You have both options. You've just choosing the vertical one instead of the horizontal one. But if it's for YouTube, it looks better on the horizontal one. To be honest, whoa. All right, there you go. Good day to you. A little cool out there, but the sun is shining, and we're headed to late November with Michigan football. Big game over the weekend in the Windy City. Michigan comes out with the victory. We're definitely going to be talking about that, how we feel about it on Monday. A lot of Michigan fans butting heads on that one. It was a win. Be happy. It was a win. I'm angry. And then, you shouldn't be angry. You should just be happy. No, you should have a reality check. Whatever. We'll get to all of those things when it came down to the game at Wrigley. Also, a new car. Michigan is able to land a quarterback, the last name Carr. And I'll give you my thoughts on that. Let's start with this big news that came out today. Sharon Moore clarifying on the broadcast. Gus Johnson, at one point, I'll just paraphrase what he said. Justice Haynes out for the year. And later Joe Klatt talked about him. Yeah, he's not just out. Who knows if he's going to be back? So Klatt wasn't as definitive as Gus. And then Moore was asked about it today, and he said, "Oh no, he's got a chance." You know how a little coach speak. But then he was pinned down and asked, "Hey, is he get a chance to come back on the regular season?" Talking about Justice Haynes, and Sharon Moore said, "No, he's out for the regular season." And there were some. I'll put myself into that category. I thought it would have been a doubtful that Justice Haynes was going to come back for Ohio State, but I think holding on to whatever you would say, a little bit of hope. And it was a little bit reminiscent of Blake Corum a couple of years ago when he got hurt against Illinois. It was like, there's no way that he's coming back. And then Michigan, though, was adamant, though, we are not ruling him out. And, he came in for the first play or first series or whatever else. And it was admirable and everything else, but so no Haynes. And I also think for me, you cling on to that the possibility that he could be there, but then you saw what Jordan Marshall was able to do, and you're thinking, Jordan Marshall, no, he's not the same kind of running back with the explosiveness as Justice Haynes, but he's damn good, and he was damn good on Saturday. But now, he's hurt, so could he play against OSU? That is in doubt. Although Sharon was saying singing the same tune today that he was singing on Saturday. He was talking, day by day, possibility that he could be back. We'll see, all those kind of things that you say when you're a coach. But it was surprising that on Saturday that Moore was as optimistic as he was about Jordan Marshall. Now, if Marshall didn't play, Marshall doesn't play this week, that's not so good. Obviously, if he doesn't play the following week, that wherever you're at with Michigan's chances of winning not one but two games, being down Marshall, I think you were prepared. I think they're prepared. They've been working to, without Haynes, but doing it without Marshall, I don't know what that's a horse of another color that I would look at. I wouldn't feel that Michigan had the chance to pull off let's call it a big upset against OSU, it would be without Jordan Marshall being in there. But that's where we sit right now. We don't know. Let's see if he's even going to play, this week. Possibility that he could do that. Could Michigan beat Maryland without Jordan Marshall? Sure. They could. It's just going to be more difficult. I mean, you think about teams, even the blue bloods, even of course a team like Michigan. Once you start, all right, you lose your top guy and you're getting to your depth. And you're like, ooh, this. But then you're losing the neck. You can only lose so many guys. Big time players and stars of your team before it's going to affect you. Just think about the quarterbacks and how big of a deal that is. Remember when I think Florida State was undefeated and they lost their quarterback? Yeah, it was. It was in 23 because Michigan was going to play them, and then Florida State still thought that they should have been in there. It was a whole thing, and it was Alabama. Remember they had the camera on the Michigan room, and when Alabama went up there, Michigan was like, oh, and some people took that like, oh, Michigan's scared of Alabama. The Florida State people were freaking out, like, what else do we have to do? Well, their quarterback got hurt, and the backup was in there, and the backup was a significant drop off. And Florida State went out and got their teeth kicked into the bowl game, and everybody was like, that was the right move. I think Michigan fans wanted to see Florida State. They would have rather have seen Florida State than see Alabama, because it looked like it was easier. It would have been probably, but after it's done, you're like, oh, it's great. And it was great. One of the greatest games in Michigan history, the setting and everything else. But yeah, that's after the fact. Beforehand, you want the easiest draw that you can get. So that's it on the injury front. When it comes down to it, significant news, big news, but not all that surprising of news. And then you quickly go over to Marshall, and then I'm sure that there'll be plenty of folks that do podcasts. I see their podcasts pop up, and they'll use significant injury news, with 5 exclamation points, and it'll be this week, rumor about Marshall and his possibility of playing. So maybe you get a little rumor that he's going to give it a go and see what's going to happen against give it a go against Maryland and see how it feels. I don't know if he's going to do that. I think they have to give him the practice this week to see where he's going to be at. I mean, they're not going to be hitting him on the shoulder or anything, but you also kind of know how it feels once you get out there and you dress up and if you can go through practice or not. What's my best guess? My best guess when I saw it is that he was done for the year. And then you hear Sharon sound so optimistic. I hate trying to read we do it. We all do it. Read the tea leaves with the coach. But man, I'm going to say that I think he's going to play Jordan Marshall against Ohio State. And I'm going to put him as questionable against Maryland. I think he wants to give that a go. I could see him trying it. But then it gets down to how much would giving him 2 weeks as a run up to Ohio State, how much better would he be than if he wasn't 100%? I know nobody's 100% this time of year, but if he was, let's say 70%, the shoulder felt 70%. I don't know, making it up. Could he get it up to 90 or close to 100 against OSU? Then I would say you probably want to sit him out. So those are the things that are going on there when it comes down to that. It is, we're in the speculative business, especially when it comes down to injuries for all of that. And let's take some of your feedback on the Haynes injury update and the speculation with Jordan Marshall. Ripstar, big fan of the Maize and Blue Review, and we like to have him here. And here's, I think, one of our most famous feedback folks right here, FFF, and it's Ferris. Famous feedback folks. That's a 4F. He says cases of sugar cane cartel cokes after the glorious victory against Northwestern. That night, Saturday night, I went to a birthday party. So yeah, there was people were in high spirits. I got to tell you that. SW Lion 26, he's in. He says, hi. I do like that Bryce was doing more RPO and his play action fakes were pretty darn good, but you're not going to have a chance against Ohio State turning the ball over. He's not talking about Haynes or Marshall, but that's okay. He's skipping ahead to the game this past Saturday and what he saw. It's all right. Rip is saying Haynes is unlikely to return this season. Per Fat Rack. Now look, nice putting the Fat Rack in there. I like that. My old school nickname, Fat Rack, and spelling it right. I like that. It's not that he's unlikely to return. He has been ruled out by Sharon Moore today for the rest of the regular season. And so then you say, okay, regular season, if Michigan makes the playoff, we're talking about that's the following week. Am I correct on that? They play. Oh, no. I'm sorry. You play the regular season, and then there would be a chance if things fell right. But Indiana and Ohio State, the idea of Michigan running the table, then Ohio State would have a loss. Then you'd have this tiebreaker, a chance the following week to play in the Big Ten championship game. If he's ruled out for Ohio State, I find it hard to believe that he would be ready to go for the Big Ten championship game. But then the following week, we have a round of playoffs. Isn't that right? And so that would be the one. And the difference between wherever you get hurt, Haynes between, 3 or 4 weeks to 5 or 6 weeks, that possibility is there. Now, if it was a bowl game, let's say, where's Michigan projected to go to the Citrus Bowl in Orlando? I used to call that the Lloyd Carr Bowl. Michigan would go there so much. I had a great time at the Citrus Bowl, Michigan, Tennessee. If Michigan makes the Citrus Bowl, and that's the game that they're playing on New Year's Day, well, in that case, if you're Justice Haynes, you're not going to play in the Citrus Bowl. I think where you could see Haynes is if Michigan runs the table, gets into the playoffs, wins that first one, and then gets to a next one. Now you might be talking about seeing him. Right? Is that how we're all feeling about it? Ferris is asking the question. What Zavada's on the shoulders, blowing kisses celebration was it the GOAT of celebrations in Wrigley Field? Well, considering the Cubs have been playing there for 100 years, they were really bad for a lot of years. There's been some pretty good celebrations there. In the end, it ended up being great. The venue. When I thought it was going to be cool. And then right before the game, I saw the configuration of the field and how it went right up against the wall. And I thought I would never have green lighted this if I was Ward Manuel. If I was Sharon Moore and I would have saw the configuration of the corner of the end zone being like 1 foot and there being a cement wall. So I'm for the safety of our players. We're not playing. And this bastardized baseball turned football stadium. Hell no. Have them play Purdue at Wrigley Field if they want. Well, they can't fill up, Purdue, even when they're playing with that little stadium over there by the lake. Michigan, they can fill it up. It's a bunch of Michigan fans will be there. We'll play at Soldier Field or something. But as it turns out, nobody got hurt. And, nobody ran into the brick wall, I should say. There might have been some injuries in there, like Marshall. But Marshall didn't get hurt by running. You imagine Marsh catching the ball and going into the cement wall. But so no harm, no foul when it came down to that. I'm just saying prior. I was making a big deal about it. I'm not making a big deal about it now because nothing happened. Goes to show you when I hear I tell you in the future when I hear everybody saying, oh, the safety of the players is paramount. I hear Ward Manuel next time I go to something, the student athletes, safety. You guys were all that worried about the safety of the athletes building a stadium right up next to the Ivy. But like I said, really nothing to scream and yell about. Even I am kind of screaming and yelling about it now that it's over. What's up, Toby? Toby, the enhanced frog avatar. I like it. SW is on to Ohio State. He's saying, Sayin is a very good quarterback for Ohio State, but that dude has all day to throw. He's rarely under pressure. I'll skip ahead to Ohio State for a second. And I think Sayin is one of the reasons if we're looking for reasons that Michigan could win yet again over Ohio State and make it 5 in a row. To me, Sayin would be a wild card in that discussion. He's a redshirt freshman. He's never played in this rivalry. And Michigan, he's going to be on the road at Michigan. I don't know how he's going to react. He has had all day. He's back there setting up, putting out a white tablecloth, sipping some water, cutting into his food. Then he decides, I'll just throw that ball down there. Oh, there's Jeremiah Smith. I just throw it on down there and he's wide open. I'm not expecting the accommodations to be so nice for Sayin when he comes up to Michigan on the 29th. Getting closer and closer. Well, obviously a week from Friday. I don't know why that made me laugh, but it's around the corner. John with a little inside scoop saying he's hearing Marshall will be okay. John also saying that Cusdahl and Parker will be just fine against Maryland. The run offensive line is stout. Michigan's offensive line has done a very nice job run blocking, is what John is saying. Now, look, John is a big Michigan fan. I don't mind some, positive. But Michigan will be just fine. They'll be just fine against Maryland. All right. I'm picking them to win against Maryland. I haven't even, broken everything down or anything like that. But, yeah, I think Michigan is going to beat Maryland. Greg is about Cusdahl. Let's go. They're getting ready to play smash against the Terps. More Sayin stats. Sacked 6 times in 10 games. Cuz was pretty good in the fourth quarter. Cuz was good. It was very good. And, there's a lot of people, and I get that they don't feel like they can get much out of a spring game. And I have to admit, I trump up the spring game a little bit more than it probably should be trumped up. I shouldn't say, that's meaningless. Don't watch. I mean, Michigan fans, doesn't really matter. You like Michigan. You like Michigan football. So any little, even nugget or morsel that you could possibly see in the spring game is much more than that. You're going to eat up. But if I do take you back to the spring game, there were a few times when I was looking at my who's this? Because Marshall wears 23. Or yeah, you got Haynes 22, you got Marshall 23, and then there was Cuzdahl. It's like, who's this 24? Gonna look like Marshall. He looked really good in the spring game. Sharon Moore said again today about Cuz that he's got a burst and that he put him as fast almost as Justice Haynes. Now, if he would have said he was faster than Haynes, I'd have said, come on, no, Sharon, you can pull everyone's leg, but you're not going to pull our leg saying that. But he's very impressed with Cuzdahl's burst when he gets out in the open. Also, he seems to run pretty hard, gets to the line. That's the one thing over, I don't know if Jasper Parker may end up being a fine back at Michigan and everything else, but you give the ball to Parker, and there's a point, to being patient, picking your hole. But Cuzdahl gets it. He's banging it up in there. And I like that from what I've seen. And we might see a heck of a lot of Cuzdahl. Might see a little bit of Parker as well. So there you go. Rip is asking, what type of offense is Michigan running and what is their identity? I would say they're a hybrid smash. They have elements of 21, 22, and 23 where if they can do it, they're just going to smash their way to victory. But along the way, they've just got this quarterback that one day we're all expecting to be the greatest of all time. Expected that heading in. He hasn't, you shouldn't be that down on him, but, he has proven to be like a lot of other, superstar, highly ranked freshmen, a lot of ups and downs, learning curves and all that. But when you have him back there, you've got the hybrid smash, the Underwood smash, where, they want to run the ball every single time, get out there, but you got to let the youngster cook a little bit and see what he could do. And why don't we just get to that and go to Northwestern? Why am I clicking that? I don't know. That game was very emotional. The peaks and valleys in that game were extraordinary. At times in that game, and the story to me was Underwood and just how on point that he looked, throwing the ball, running the ball. I mean, he was dealing. This was the Bryce Underwood that I thought when, that he got the greatest ranking of all time, what I saw on Saturday. A cannon, accurate, putting the ball on these receivers. It was just, that was the high part. There was, but then, he was doing all that. Everybody saw that part. But there was a certain point, it was only 7-0, nearly 7-3. Like, looks great. He's playing great. But it's only 7-3. Some missed field goals in there. And that was that a microcosm of the game? If we're just talking about the peaks and valleys, I would say yes. You get into the third quarter and Underwood had a meltdown. He had a heat check. I'm sure himself, I don't know if he admitted any of this. I didn't see what he had to say in the post game. But when you're out there and it's finally clicking and you're the man, you kind of feel like, all right, I got this. And he had a couple heat checks. Over the middle, boom, pick, another pick, and then a fumble, 3 turnovers. In the third quarter, miserable. I know a lot of people, and I saw the stat that no team in this century has had a -5, or it was zero gained, because SMU turned it over. They were a -6 just last year. All of that, but where you just have a -5 and then you have a 0 in your own, not going to win too many football games, and that I think we all know, and that was historical that way. You turn it over 3 times in the fourth quarter. It's very memorable. In 1997, Michigan started out with Colorado, and then they played Baylor, and then Notre Dame. Or they played Notre Dame week 2. It's probably Notre Dame week 2. So they played Notre Dame, and they win that game 21-14. Michigan fumbled the ball 3 times in the fourth quarter in that championship season at home against Notre Dame. And the defense, bowed their backs and got the stops. So those kind of things happen. And this Michigan defense, overall, is pretty good on Saturday, being able to do that. So that was kind of a peak. Jordan Young in that third down. It looked like Sanders still against Ohio State, against that tight end, the way that he played that one. It was, a thing of beauty. And that was awesome. Rayshon Benny was great in that game against Northwestern. But that was the thing with Underwood. Great, but then, he was terrible. But to his credit, he played the worst fourth quarter that you could possibly play, turning it over 3 times, the 2 picks, and then the fumble. But then when he needed to, when he threw that dart, whatever you want to call it, was it 22 yards over there to Marsh? Gus Johnson or Joel Klatt said, "Oh, it was a great throw, and even better catch." And I'll buy that, but you needed both pieces of that particular thing to happen and to come in and set up the Zavada heroics and him coming back from missing the 2 to being put up on the shoulder of his teammates at Wrigley, and all is good. Everybody walked out of there like, woo! And then it was way too close, and they could have lost, but hey, a win's a win. You heard that probably a million times since Saturday. But then there were people that got upset because there were Michigan fans that were typing away on social media that they didn't like the game that Sharon Moore was coaching, that this team's undisciplined with the penalties, with the turnovers. And then the happy Michigan fans would come back and say, "You guys are never happy. They just won the ball game. Why not enjoy yourself?" And I don't know what the other people would come back and say. "Yeah, well, whatever. You're just ignoring things that went on in the game." So this stuff was going back and forth. And then, you get you're only happy when you're, sad or you're mad, from the Michigan standpoint. You can win a ball game. I think everyone that's watching this and all Michigan fans actually like when they ultimately win the game. I'm going to just put that into the equation, that everybody actually likes it. But then after that, how you feel is going to be, with the emotion of a game, is going to be how you feel. And I'll give you my news. I thought that the peaks and valleys with Underwood, he was his best, and everything that I would have, hoped and dreamed of, coming into the season. And then he was the absolute worst. Then he ended up bouncing back and throwing that great pass and better catch to Marsh. So that's the story on Underwood. Fabulous. But I get news for you on Sharon Moore. It was good that he got the win, but Sharon Moore had a bad game. I heard people saying, well, is it Sharon Moore's fault that they, turned it over 5 times? Not necessarily. It was Sharon Moore's fault that they committed a couple of them. He took the onus for the 4th and 1 shotgun, fumble. I'll take his word for it that it was his fault. But as a coach, you have to ask, if you're a Michigan fan, it's great that you love them and everything else, but you can also have a bad game as a coach. And Sharon Moore, you have to ask, was he putting his players in the best position to win that game? And you know the answer to that is absolutely not. We all knew that Samaj Morgan should have been benched, if not after game one, certainly after the non-conference season. It was in his head. He had the yips. There's no way he was crying back there, telling everybody. He was diving on live balls. During the season, he's turning. I mean, it was the clearest of anything. You don't have to have played football at Michigan or be an analyst or be anything. Everybody knew that he shouldn't have been back there. And he kept being trotted out there by Sharon. And you know what everyone was saying all year long? At some point, this is going to cost Michigan a game. So Michigan got lucky. And Sharon Moore got lucky that didn't cost them the game. Yeah, the penalty or the replay, the official, whatever he was doing, that was kind of a joke. I get that part. But the fact remains, it's probably good that it was a turnover because Moore would probably continue to put him out there. That was a terrible coaching decision from your head coach. But, hopefully he can learn. I think it comes from a good place. He loves the kid. Oh, it's really eating him up. Sure it was. But it's your fault that you put him out there. Rayshon Benny probably loves Michigan more than anyone. Don't put him on punt return. Don't put him at quarterback. And when you're the head coach and you're calling timeouts and helping the other team in the late game situation like Moore did, that was a bad use of timeouts. That was bad game management. Now, Moore has said that he has somebody up in the booth telling him what to do, but, he kicked that one. Now, he ended up, again, I would say was it luck? Michigan ended up getting the first down. I think it was lucky because you can't bank on getting a first down there. You would have given Northwestern an extra 35, 40 seconds by calling a timeout. And he said today, well, I wanted to make sure everybody knew what they were doing. They're supposed to know what they're doing because you can't be burning timeouts. You got to take that clock down. You can't give Northwestern any time. Bad coaching. Now, I don't have to yell. I don't know why I'm actually yelling. I should probably just be explaining it. But so he kicked that one. And earlier in the game, there was a third down where it looked pretty obvious that the ball had hit the ground. And it's in the first half. You challenge it, you call a timeout, and you get him to look at that. And it didn't happen. What if it was a really tight game? It ended up being a tight game. But what if, why, I see what I see from good coaches is these guys will challenge almost anything, call a timeout on anything. I think they almost go overboard. Sharon, what's he doing over there on the sideline? That's what the head coach is for. So he had a bad game, a really bad game. But I would say, like a lot of people, and it's true, Michigan is a young team. And that's going to bode well for the future. They also have a young head coach. And I want to stop the screaming and yelling about him because I think people would think, whoa, do you want Sharon Moore fired? No, I don't. I don't think if I was in charge, absolutely, I would not be, thinking about firing Sharon Moore. Even if he lost that game, I wouldn't be thinking about it. Even if he loses this game coming up against Maryland, I wouldn't be thinking about it. You know why? Because he has a lot of other stuff that he does really good. And I really like about him. And he's got a really young team. And if I just want to push a jack, let's just say I, was screaming and yelling. I say, hey, he's another bad game for being shown the door. I don't want to show Marsh and Underwood and Marshall. I don't want all those guys to be shown the door either. And in essence, if you're getting rid of the coach, you might as well tell all those other guys, hey, you guys go and take off too, because what we're doing here is we're rebooting. And you might think, no, we'll just give them a bunch of money. And it's that, you've seen enough of coaches leaving. So I just end it this way with that particular point. It's nice to come out and get a victory. But going through it, the highs and lows of it with Underwood, great, but, not so great in the fourth quarter. But, man, he made the last throw. Nice job. Moore, kicked a bunch of decisions, game management, and then personnel. He can learn from that, and hopefully he does. Now, I said as much last year when Dan Lanning tricked him into that turnover by, Moore not calling a timeout, and, Michigan shot themselves in the foot against the Ducks. Probably wouldn't have won that game anyways. Against Indiana at the end when they let like 30 seconds tick off at the end of the game. You don't need to be a college football maven or a former player to look at that and say, what the hell's going on? But, so those were consecutive games, not so hot. But, this particular game fits into those games, but those games were losses, but this one was a win. So I think after all of that, can you say, hey, it's nice to get a win. It's nice to still be playing for something in November. Really, that's what it's about. Having a chance to play for a championship, get into the college football playoff, win one more game, and set up the final one for absolutely an incredible, meaningful game. And as much as last year was one of the most surprising, one of the greatest Michigan wins ever against Ohio State, Michigan had 5 losses in that game. Not this time if they get another win. It's a little easier. It doesn't mean as much when you're not playing for anything except, pride is great and all those kind of things. And I'm not downgrading that one too much. I'm just saying where they're at right now. But I saw a lot of going back and forth and people yelling like, why are you so mad? Well, we're just watching the game. We're giving our opinions. And if you're somebody that's just like, hey, a win's a win, it's awesome. And you don't want to deal with the 5 turnovers, I dealt with them. That was a hell of a roller coaster that Underwood put us through. But the good part of that roller coaster is he played the best that I've ever seen him play. It was awesome. Now they put a bunch on his plate. You might have not liked that reverse call. I didn't have a problem. I saw everybody crying about that. The ball, they're running the ball. Keep running it. Well, I like an offensive coordinator. It's a real rhythm position when you're calling the plays and everything. When I see the successful ones. And I get what people are like, yeah, you really got something going. Just keep going again. But there's more into it than that. And make no mistake, I wouldn't have wanted Marsh and Underwood as freshmen with the running game working to do something like, throw some kind of blind pass back to downfield or something. Those are high degree of difficulty and really high risk plays. Running an end around is not supposed to be. Sometimes it doesn't work and you get hit in the backfield and you lose some yardage and stuff like that. True enough. But, having Underwood flip the ball over the Marsh, even Klatt, they got to try to get cute. They didn't try to get cute. They're just running a damn reverse. Was it some double pass, Statue of Liberty? I thought Michigan fans kicked that one. You guys just, when something goes wrong, you just can't automatically, but that's terrible. So that particular turnover, I don't know, should Underwood have seen these guys? The reverse was it wasn't an end around where you're just handing it right there. It was actually pretty far in the backfield. Should Underwood have saw that? Am I chalking that up to, the freshman line? Because you normally don't see somebody who's getting the end around having a player right in their lap right when it happens. So that thing was blown up. I tend to credit Northwestern on that. Looking at it. So there I am with all of that. We'll get to Michigan's new quarterback recruit coming up in a minute, but let me take some of the feedback. Rip wants to know if Michigan needs a quarterback coach. Does someone need to be on the sideline coaching Bryce between plays? or is a headset enough? Maybe all of those things. I think doing it mid-drift or here at the end of the season, that sounds like a real panic move. Whatever your best laid plans were, you got to kind of get through this. But taking a step back afterwards, seeing where he is, and then looking at this season, and does he need a quarterback coach? The answer could be maybe. So anyone that says absolutely or anybody says no, I'm not really, I don't care who they are. But maybe is the answer right now. A good quarterback coach could help. Absolutely. There you go. John talking about Cuz in the spring game. John is going to be going to the OSU game. I'll be there, John. Jamyan is saying as long as Samaj doesn't touch the ball, I'm good. Yeah. On punt returns. I mean, if good thing I'm not going to the Maryland game. If they're going to, Sharon today said that Marsh is the punt returner. But if I was at the game with John at the Maryland game and they put Samaj back there, they might be like, we got somebody running out of the field. Oh my gosh. Give the number one to Marsh. Whoa, now we're talking. Now we're cooking. Now this show is cooking. Let's go. I'm with you on that. A-Train likes to run the ball. He wants the short passing game and an occasional deep ball. That's what suits them best. Well, the run game, no doubt, is a huge part of it. I hadn't seen whatever they were doing, and it could have been how the looks that Northwestern was giving them. Those things tend to play a big part in it, but I had not seen Underwood utilizing between the hashes a whole lot this year at all. I hadn't seen him have much success. Save the New Mexico or CMU game. I hadn't seen him really throw, in the middle of the field. And he hadn't been really accurate on the outside. But in this game, man, he was dealing everywhere. I mean, he had it all. So when you say the short passing game and then an occasional deep ball suits them best, I'm not sure about that. After what I saw from I'm pretty sure I don't want to see from Underwood is throwing over the middle into a lot of traffic, because those get picked off. Doesn't matter who you are. There you go. It's a young team that has a lot of talent. Sorry. Somebody, it seemed like a bot response. There's no reason to entertain those. Hadley is talking deja vu. When Corum was hurt and didn't play against Ohio, and since Hayes being out, can Marshall be okay to play in the Ohio State game? We're going to need him to win. Exactly. Rip is saying this is another show that was saying something. Yeah, look, I don't know what they're trying to. I don't know what they're doing over there, so I just can't speak for them since I have no idea. I have no idea who or what they're saying or anything else. But the notion, it wasn't just, whatever these guys are, talking about Sharon Moore getting fired. The criticisms, there's some criticisms. I just yelled about them for like 5-10 minutes. They're valid. But let's not, get it twisted. Sharon Moore, young team. And is he learning? Sharon Moore's not even 40 years old. Is it okay? I know it's Michigan. It is Michigan. This is Michigan. Somebody was asking me this weekend, can Michigan win a national championship with Sharon Moore? And I was thinking, yeah, he can. And then he said, why? What have you seen? I said, well, I've seen that he can, with these last 2 years, that they've done a great job and bringing in some of the best talent in the country. And that's where it starts. Can you get great talent in the transfer portal and recruiting? Yeah, he's been able to do that. Now, that's not the only thing. You got to develop them, and then you got to coach them. And can you be a little bit patient? So we're talking about being patient with the young players. Can you be patient with a coach who's, learning some of the game management situations? I can only just ask the question. I can say myself, yeah, it didn't cost them. It could have cost them, probably should have cost them. He was lucky. That's a different story. That's how sports works when you win. But it doesn't mean you can't go back and say, when he's talking about cleaning stuff up, he's got to start with the guy with the headset on and the guy that's talking about cleaning things up. All right. Can Haynes get a medical red shirt? Haynes is going to the pros. We've watched him play. He could just come back. He's got another year if he really wanted to. But no, he's going pro. I mean, that would be everyone's guess. He showed it on the field. He has a pro game. He is a running back. All of those things add up to him going. Now, look, if he would come back, and I've said this a few times, I would not criticize him. There'd be a lot of people that would criticize Haynes for coming back. They would say things like, you only have, which is, things are true. You only have, so much life, so many carries as a running back. They don't get paid all that well anyway. So you got to, if you can go and get paid, you do it as a running back in the NFL. The NIL comes into the equation for sure. But I go back to Tyrone Wheatley. One of the reasons I love that guy so much, people are criticizing him. Tyrone Wheatley came up. They had a press conference, and Wheatley, I'd seen 100 of those press conferences, and everybody was expecting Tyrone to say, no, I love Michigan, but I am going to forego my final season, and I'm going to enter my name in the NFL draft. But that is not what Tyrone Wheatley did. Tyrone Wheatley said, I love Michigan, and I'm coming back. It worked out really well for Tyrone Wheatley. Really good NFL back, great Michigan back. And so it can work out great. But, man, people love criticizing guys when they could go pro and they come back to college. Man, do they love criticizing them. Oh, he's like, okay. That's it. Fumbo. Joe says it sucks that Haynes is out for the season. We need Marshall, especially against that school. I do have to ask why Morgan is still getting reps. Marshall and McCulley need to be the main targets. Yeah, I think we're all with you on that. I don't know why, Samaj, is he third? He could be the third wide receiver at best or something else. But yeah, they should be streamlining I would say in terms of guys that I would like to see, and heading into the season, there was nobody that was a bigger fan than Samaj Morgan than me. But, he's, it's crumbled before all of our eyes, and that sucks. So you support him on the sideline, and maybe he'll be needed. There's some injuries or whatever, but I want the ball going to Marsh. I want the ball going to McCullough. I want the ball going to Klein. I want the ball going to Marshall, to Nelly. I'd say Hogan Hansen, but he's never going to play. I'd like to see all of those tight ends. When would I want to see a pass to Samaj Morgan or a play called for Samaj Morgan? Shannon Goodwin, Samaj Morgan. I mean, it's down the list, so I don't think Samaj should be involved in the game plans at all moving forward. Yeah, not in front of any of those guys that I just mentioned. That would be it. Ferris still clinging to. He still believes in Morgan. All right. Go ahead. I don't know what you can say about that. Harvey is in a disagreement. He says, I disagree. I think that was the perfect time to make sure everybody was on the same page, considering they've been screwing up the whole game. That's fine. I'm going to stay with my opinion on that, Harvey. He did think he should have challenged that fumble. You mean the Samaj fumble? This one we're talking about. This was the replay that should have been called a timeout. The one John is talking about. Yeah, look, if you don't like another channel, it's just like if you like another channel, you like somebody else, it's all good. I mean, they're talking Michigan football. I'm sure there's some value to some shows that are out there. There's some fine personalities, people giving you excellent information, but I don't really need to hear any of that here. That's great, but it's just the same way. If you don't like another channel, dogging them out or whatever else, you can do that somewhere else. That kind of thing. Rip's going a little bit too far here with the compliments for me. That's it. Now look, a little Red Smith talk is pretty good. Red Smith, Ring Lardner. Those are some of my favorite old school, long past journalists. DVR said, fair criticism is fair. A lot of people have biased criticism. That's true enough. That's it. The one thing that when I get people say, well, Michigan fans are never happy unless they're mad. And only Michigan, it's not only Michigan. Extremely popular teams get tons of people that like them. And I got news for you. There's people, they act the same way. Freaking out. There is a part, it just depends how you like your games. Over on the Maize and Blue Review. That's why we're here. On3.com, Rivals, Maize and Blue Review. I urge you to join up if you like Michigan as much as I think you guys like it. We're sitting around talking about Michigan all day and all night. It's a lot of fun. They got a posting board there. So during the games, there's an actual, live thread that goes on. Well, if you can imagine the roller coaster of thoughts, pretty much any thought that goes into someone's head as they're watching a game, is typed out on that thread. And you got people like, oh my gosh, it is just, it's wild, but some people like it. I have to admit, I like it myself. The instantaneous reaction, especially if you're sitting home by yourself. What's a bunch of people? I don't know about, you need to be commenting on every play, but when you're by yourself, it makes you feel like you're with a group of fans, like-minded fans, even if you aren't, criticizing every play. That's it. When it comes down to it. U of M is a roller coaster. Well, bringing up the Lions. Oh. Dan Campbell yells, "Hit me." Oh, he's talking about at the blackjack table. Even when he has 19. Yeah. Yeah, the Lions lost because they couldn't protect Goff well enough. I've watched enough games where him and Amon-Ra St. Brown have this connection, and there was at least, I can think of 5 passes as I sit here right now where Brown's out and the ball is like 5 feet over his head or 5 feet behind him. It's just uncatchable. A couple of those 4th downs. That one when they were down there at the goal line. Like Amon-Ra's here and he threw it like 10 yards over there. He's rushed. I think that was the biggest one. The second one probably was it 0 for 4 on the 4th downs? Yeah, usually Gambling Dan, you call him that, and it works. What are you going to say to him? It almost always works, except in big games. I mean, last night was a big game, and the Washington game last year, and the San Francisco game. But other than those games, it seems, I mean, I don't want to, those were really big games. That's his identity. The one that they actually kicked the field goal, he was getting ready to go for that one. I wonder if somebody had to actually say, look, let's kick this one. Or if he came up with that on his own. I don't know. Okay, we did want to get to that new car. You know, for you folks that are old enough, there was a game show back in the day with Bob Barker. And it was The Price is Right. It was a pretty cool game. But, you'd get up there, and I watched enough of them where there were a couple things that I thought that I would always want to, if I was bidding on something, you get up there, I'd always have everybody bid, and I would always want to get up there by bidding $1. And I always was impressed by somebody, because if you can't go over, they show you, hey, a new dining room set. And you're like, ooh, dining room set. And everybody's bidding on it. And they're $666, $750. And then it comes to me, and I'm like, oh, I think they've overshot it. $1. And I would get up there. So that would just be half of it. Then that is half of it. Getting up on stage. Not everybody, just be my luck where I would be in that game, and I would just be like, 554, and somebody would say 555, and no, Karen, you're going, okay. And I would miss out on all of them. That would be pretty sad. But if I got the $1, that would be perfect, and I would get up there. That'd be one of my dreams. But then when you get up there, you don't really have a choice on the prize that you're going to win, but the one that everybody wants, a new car, and everybody freaks out. Woo! Yeah, new car. And I would want to just putt. I think they used to have like a little small putting green. Then they had another, it was called Blinko, where you had to have this, you put this chip in this huge of game, and it goes down and it lands and whatever. Those would be the two that I'd want. And then at the end, I guess that's you have to bid on a bunch of everything that has a car or something. Why am I talking about? Oh, the new car. Well, Michigan gets a quarterback, and his name is Tommy Carr, the younger brother of CJ Carr, who was at Notre Dame, the son of Jason and Tammy Carr, the grandson of Lloyd Carr. In addition, Tom Curtis is also his grandfather. Isn't that correct? Who had 2 interceptions in the 1969 Ohio State. I mean, this is the Carr and Curtis family is, about royalty, about as royal as you could get at Michigan. And it didn't work out with CJ. You could understand, it was coming down, and they were like, should we be going after Dante Moore, Bryce Underwood, CJ Carr? You get Carr, and a lot of moving parts there. So we know they didn't get CJ, and he went to Notre Dame. But now they got Tommy. And, for me, this is, it makes a lot of sense. I mentioned I was at a birthday party Saturday night, and at one point we started talking about Tommy Carr, and the person that was standing there talking about Michigan with me said, he'd be a nice fit at Michigan. You know what? He would be. It makes perfect sense. It feels right. Feels good. Parents, grandparents, brother, get him in here. That he's a 3-star. I've read his coach's comments. Real good athlete. Could have ran a lot more, but they kept him in the pocket. And it sounds like he's got work to do with his arm talent. But so he can't just stand there and throw it the length of the field. But you work on your base, and he's not playing as a true freshman. Bryce Underwood will be here, I would think. But is he someone that you put in the work and one day say, wow, this guy's gone from a 3-star to starting at Michigan? Yeah. It's a nice pickup. Again, I feel pretty good about it. Feels right. And then what I really would want to see, and I'll ask you this question. If you were his parents, if you were Lloyd Carr, would you want to see Notre Dame and Michigan meet in the college football playoffs with CJ Carr playing for Notre Dame and Tommy Carr playing for Michigan? If you were his parents, would you want to see that? If you were Lloyd, would you want to see that? I think that my first thought, if I was Lloyd, I would say, you'd say, you would say, I'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. I'm not going to think about it, because you would have to at that point, though, if it happened. What would you do? On one hand, it would mean that both of these kids have had exceptional seasons. They get their team to the college football playoff. The answer would be, if we were playing the hypothetical game, if I was Lloyd, I'd say, well, hopefully they could be in the national championship game. So then a Carr versus Carr national championship game would be quite the Michigan Notre Dame for everything in the college football playoff. Tommy against CJ, and what do you do? It was a little bit, is very similar actually with the Harbaugh Bowl with San Francisco and Baltimore. I think that his mom said that she was rooting for John because Jim had won everything maybe when he was growing up. Is that true? I don't know, something like that. But you're torn. But you get all the way, you realize that it could possibly happen. And hey, it's great, but it'd be tough. It'd be tough, but it'd be great. But would you choose for it? Would you choose? Well, you would choose they would both play in the championship game. What would you really like is one of them plays in the championship game one year, one of them plays next year. Then you'd have to worry about any of that. And it's very unlikely that it would happen anyways. But it's kind of stuff that you sit around and think about. At least I'm sitting around thinking about it. Keegan coming in saying Julian Walker may finish as a 5-star. Keegan saying that Keegan, you're talking about somebody that works for another site. I don't know what that guy's thinking or what he's doing. So you're on the wrong show. Sorry about that. It's pretty clear that the Carrs like Sharon. That's it. Got a couple. We'll take a couple more here. Goff shouldn't have worn gloves or should have been told to take them off. Most of his passes were low. Yeah, Ron, Goff's been around the block enough. It was windy. He was harassed, but I don't know about telling a quarterback that's been around the block as much as he has, hey, about equipment situations or how to throw the ball or something. That's it. I don't know. Mm-mm. Get up here and get a couple more. Thanks, Mar. People go, look, I think after the season, that the possibility of JB Brown not being the special teams coach is likely to happen. Here's more glove talk for Goff. I didn't realize that was a thing. No more gloves for Goff if it's over 40 degrees. Yesterday was low 40s. I don't know why, but he seems to throw terrible with the gloves on. I don't know. Wasn't Goff? Didn't he have smaller hands when coming out, and then they have the measurement? If somebody's under 19 or something, and that they could fumble a lot, and so maybe when there's inclement weather and you have to throw the ball, and with a driving wind, maybe there could be something there. Total speculation on my part, but no, it's not speculation. It's just something I remember. But he's got a hell of an arm. But like most quarterbacks that like to sit in the pocket, he needs time to throw. And it's not like he moves around in the pocket really well. That's one thing he does not do well. So that was an issue. The Eagles made it wasn't a good thing all around for the Lions. The Eagles, Howie Roseman went out and got Phillips from Miami, and Phillips was all over the place last night. The Lions, sat on their hands. They're like, hey, we love Brad Holmes. He's great and everything else. Everybody's like, hey, Brad, why don't you take a swing? Might need some interior offensive linemen. You might need to get a center. You might need to really protect Goff in the middle. And then, the Eagles were all over them. They were bringing pressure, and the Lions couldn't handle it. So Plinko. We're getting a little Price is Right talk. If you're going to be $1, you need to be the last one, because the last one would probably say $2. You're correct in that. That's right. I guess I should have said, if the situation arose, I would love to see everybody feel like they have gone over and win and be up there to play by bidding $1. Keegan is saying Tommy is higher than Brady Smigel in the new rankings. Okay. Interesting. That is interesting. Michigan Go Blue 1234 says, if we lose to Maryland, you might hear a lot of Fire Sharon. Yeah, the thing about the Fire Sharon crowd is that, they're just talking just to talk. You want to lose this very young team that you have, and, just to go with I say that. Yeah, bring Jesse Minter in. Brian BK to Michigan. I mean, is that what we're talking about? I'll meet at Michigan Stadium during the Ohio State game, or before the Ohio State game, for a drink. Inside the stadium, outside the stadium, let's do it. Rusty. Wonder how bad Ohio State is going to beat that team up north this year by at least 40. Well, Rusty, this is your kind of spot to come on in, Rusty Mack. They were going to beat them by 40 last year, Rusty. So you just, say the same thing every year. I mean, it's been a long time, a couple thousand days or something since you've actually won the game. You guys, you beat Purdue, and you guys feel like you're the greatest team ever. You guys were the greatest team ever last year. You lost at home. You talk all you want. I'm going to still, as far as Ohio State goes, I will just enjoy the Michigan dominance until it actually happens. And I wouldn't put it past Michigan to beat you guys again. How about that, Rusty? Old Rusty. Goff, I think we're talking about here. Here's Maze Madman. Speaking of people that knows how to run a podcast. There he was. More Goff. Ferris. Talking to OSU fans. Keep waiting on that 40 burger. Let's get Nick Saban. Urban Meyer is the OC. The funny thing about Urban Meyer is that when Jim Harbaugh was, losing to Ohio State after 5 times, there were a lot of fans who were like, well, yes, we'll take. I mean, that's how I don't know. You remember it was the greatest bounce back of all time, in my opinion. But it does show you where a lot of the fans were. A lot of the fans wanted that. They wanted to see Urban, even though it was, you're talking over now, and it sounds that's like the stupidest thing you would ever even. No, he would never consider it. No, Michigan fans would never consider it. Michigan would never consider it. But a lot of the fans were considering it. And a lot of the fans, if you told them that it wasn't possible, they'd say that's the problem with Michigan, with Urban Meyer. That was never going to happen, but a lot of people, did say it. So that's it. Okay, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you over on the Maize and Blue Review. We'll continue doing this. We'll talk with you on Wednesday. And until then, have a great day. Great night.